Welcome back to Red Hawk Media. Today we're taking a look at Keynote and the possibilities of animating slides with Keynote. Before we begin, I'll give you an idea of what this may look like, an actual animated slide that we've got here. This is a one that was put together. And we got an image that was created in Photoshop, broken up into layers, and then exported in those different layers to Photoshop. And that was kind of that was all contrived ahead of time, planned out, and then different effects were added in Keynote to put it all together to create the animation. So let's begin. We're actually not going to start in Keynote. We're going to begin in Photoshop. So I'm going to head over there. I've already got a document created, and what we're looking at is a document 1920 by 1080. That's kind of the standard size for 1080i or 1080p. Those are the dimensions that you're looking for a 16 by 9 ratio. If you're looking at other ratios, you of course would want to start with a document that's a different size. But 1920 by 1080 for us today. I've created my document. I've imported our school logo here, which is Rocky the Red Hawk, and I've got him added in. He's on one layer, and I'm going to create a new layer here very quickly. And let's not apply that. So let's start my new layer. I'm on my new layer, and what I want to do is I'm just going to create a banner that's behind him here. And with that banner, I'm going to be able to create kind of a gradient. So I'm just going to go up to Edit and Fill. And if you're curious how I did that, I just grabbed the marquee tool here, and I roughly guesstimated where the banner was going to be. Take that over the edge. If I don't like the size of it or I need to resize it, I can always go to Select, transform my selection, and now I've got the little anchors to drag in to get it close to where I need it to be. Okay. It's important that it's on a separate layer though. So Rocky's on one layer over here in my layer bar, and then my new layer with my gradient banner is going to be on another layer. That's going to make it easy to export the images out of here to Keynote. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this here. Go up to Edit, and I'm going to go ahead and first I'm going to accept that I changed my transformation, so I hit Enter there. And let's go to Fill, and let's just go to Color, and click OK. And that's the color that was on there. All right, if I don't like that particular color, I just go up to Edit, Fill again. I can click on Color here. It'll bring up my little color panel. And then let's say, for instance, I wanted to match the red of Rocky, right? Or the black of Rocky, or maybe we should go with the gray of Rocky. And then we've got OK. And I click OK again, and there's my banner. Now the banner's sitting right in front of Rocky. That's going to pose a problem, so of course I would want to drag that to the back. But at this point, I've created two different layers, and it's the beginning of what I'm going to do. I would add on Red Hawk Media and complete that with the text, adding on new layers as I go. So I'd create a new layer, add in my text, and you get the idea here of how this is going to go. So with the whole process of what we've got going on here, eventually, once I complete my picture and I've got it all done, just like the example that we saw earlier, I'm going to export each of these layers individually. And how you're going to do that is very similar to how web designers export individual images for their web design. So I'm going to click off the layers that I don't want to see right now, and I'm going to get that marquee tool off of there. And all I'm going to do is, now that I've got the marquee tool off, I'm going to grab the marquee tool again and very carefully, as close as I can because it's going to make life easier in Keynote here, I'm going to select around the person or the image that I've got here. Now, this is where that select and transform selection comes in handy. Now I can drag it in so it's nice and close. If you've got loads and loads of layers of different things that are going on, this makes it really easy to be able to move things in Keynote. If the image is the full size, the full 1920 by 1080, it's really difficult because you've got a load of layers that'll be stacked on top of each other like pancakes. So I've got my selection, and at this point I'm going to go to Save As. And apply my transformation first. Always forget that step. And I don't want to save it as a Photoshop format. I want to go to JPEG. Okay. And as a JPEG, we go ahead and save it as Rocky. We'll put it right onto my desktop here. And now I'm going to go ahead and click Save. Okay, keep the resolution up as high as you can. And then we click OK. Now, here's something to think about. If I save it as a JPEG, it's automatically going to save it with a white background. All right, it's going to fill in anything that's transparent. So if you want to maintain transparency, all right, I need to save it as a PNG. In this instance, I want to be able to put Rocky on any color background, use them for any purposes, maybe lay them right over the top of movie when I go ahead and create this. So I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to go Save As. And this time, instead of the JPEG, I'm going to go PNG. And that's going to preserve the transparency. Let's put them onto the desktop. Click Save. Okay. Yes. Okay. I don't want it to be interlaced, otherwise the background will show through again. And we're all set. So I go ahead and minimize this now. I come back over to one of my slides in Keynote, grab my image that's on my desktop, and now I'm going to drag that in here. So I go ahead and add that in. And you can see he's got transparency. All the letters are shown right through next to his arms here and all that. So I manipulate my image in here. If I need to resize it, I can, but it should fit perfectly with the slides. Keynote, if your presentation is created in the wide format. What I mean by that is if I go to File and I go to New, I've got Standard or I've got Wide. Wide is the 1920 by 1080 setting. The standard one you're going to see is more of a square 4:3 ratio. So I put it onto wide. I'm all set. I'm going to cancel out of that. Okay, so I've got Rocky in here. We can go ahead and arrange Rocky over in the formatting area. Inspector is kind of gone. It's integrated in here. It used to be its own little window in that. Now they've worked it into this side panel. It's all exactly the same, but just to help you navigate through that. With Rocky selected, always make sure that your image is selected. If you're not sure, click off to the side, click on your image, okay? And we've got Rocky there, and I'm going to go ahead and arrange him backward. So I go to the back here, brings my font to the front. My font is going to be problematic in this color, so I go ahead and switch that over to something that's going to really show up. Let's go with like a bright yellow or something. It's kind of a pukey yellow. Let's brighten that up, and then OK. And then let's go ahead and style that. Add on a drop shadow, just so it shows up against everything. Get the offset going so it's not so close. Keep the opacity up, the angle over here. And now we can see that we've got a little bit of depth to that text. You get the idea. With each of the images now, what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start adding animations. Whatever I want to animate, I go ahead and click on. So Rocky's the first thing. And I click on my Animate tab over in the inspector here. With the inspector, you've got 3 different options. You've got a build-in, an action, and a build-out. Build-in is basically like an entrance effect. The action is when it's already on the slide. Well, I'll just show you here. We'll go ahead and add an effect here. And let's do the dissolve here. So he comes in, he just does a nice fade in. If I want to change that, I go ahead and pick any other ones. We got a pivot. He comes up, rotating up. It gives nice previews of all this stuff. Now that's a build-in. Let's say that I want to add an action. Okay, let's say he comes on and he just jiggles back and forth like that. Kind of a funny action here. All right, then I want to add a build-on or a build-out, which is an exit one. Let's go ahead and have that pop out. Boom. All right, I've just added animations and all to Rocky here. And the nice part is that if I hit play here, and I hit my spacebar to cue him in, he pivots up, he's going to have a jiggle, and then he's going to pop out. Okay? I set all those up so that they're on the keyboard. They're all separate actions. It requires a key strike for each one of these to advance it forward. Let's make it so that it's more automatic. So I go to the build order at the bottom right here. It's at the bottom of the inspector. That's going to open the drawer here, and I can see that each one of these things starts on click. Second one, on click, and on click. Now, they're in order. This is the order they're going to pop up. They're all Rocky, so it's not going to matter. But what I want to do is I can go ahead and change these so that they're going to happen automatically. So I can go to after build 1, okay? Now, it's going after build 1 because I've got an entrance or a build in, I've got an action, and a build out all on the same image. If I go to something else, like my title here, for instance, and I add in some build-ins now, add an effect, and let's say it's a drift and scale. That's kind of cool. All right, we got it. All right, now you can see that that fourth thing shows up. It's automatically on click, and maybe I want that to happen at the same time as something else here. So I get a few more options. I can go with build 3, after build 3. If I don't like that, I go ahead and I can usually, let's see here, if I can drag it up into somewhere else here. So now, click on my animating slides. For my drift and scale, I can build it with 2 or after 2, and you got a bunch of options. When you get really specific, for instance, as you're creating effects that are more linked together, and they've got all specific timings of when you want them to show up and all that, over here the delay becomes a very handy thing. So if I go back and I click on Rocky, and he comes in right away, but I want the pop to be delayed. I'm going to say after build 3, but I want it to be delayed a certain amount of time. That's how I can adjust it. Then I click preview, and it's going to go through everything, showing me how that works. Now, when we're all said and done, when we've got all of our images in here and the different layers from Photoshop as JPEGs or PNGs, 1920 by 1080 size, I've got them all in here. I've got everything animated. It looks perfect the way that I want it. Now, Keynote's got a great feature on it that you can Xtime as a .mov or a QuickTime file. So up in the file thing, file menu, you can go to export to. And then we've got the option of PDF, PowerPoint, QuickTime, HTML, images, all those things. We're looking at the QuickTime feature today. We don't need it to be a PowerPoint or a PDF. So I go to QuickTime, and I can click on that, and then right away it asks me what I want to do with this. I can pick the different sizes depending on what media I'm going to be using it with. So I go 1080p. It's going to be the best for anything that's HD. It's self-playing. And then I can go ahead and click Next. Okay. Now it's going to go through, ask me where I want to save this to, and then I would go ahead and export it. Okay, for the sake of time, I'm not going to do that, but that's what we've got today for taking slides in Keynote, animating them, and turning them into pretty catchy title overlays or title intros or outros, however you want to do it. Thanks again for joining us with another episode of Red Hawk Media. Bye.